The doctor recently diagnosed me with Knucklemania. So it's not, it's not phony. This was my first experience really with your company. I'd heard of it before. Obviously, coming from a big boxing background, when Paulie Malignaggi competed in it, that was a big thing.
Right.
But just in my personal life, I wasn't really in a space there to be paying attention at that time. But this time I was, and man, I loved it. I thought it was great. So I was so excited to talk to you because to me, man, what you've done is amazing, right? You just started this thing in 2018. So I wonder, like, how did you come up with this? It's an amazing thing. A lot of people have ideas, but you actually did something.
The thing that most people don't know is I've worked on this for now 10 years, but 8 years up to the point of getting it legalized.
Wow.
And I did an event back in 2011 in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Fort McDowell Casino, where I was promoting an MMA card, and I did one bare knuckle fight on top of it, and that was Bobby Gunn versus this guy Richie Stewart, and we sold like 5,500 tickets. You couldn't get into the place. We streamed it on this platform called Ustream, but the paywall crashed. So we had like 700,000 people logged in to buy this thing. It was really cheap. I forget if it was $2.99 or $4.99, but whatever it was, like they were coming in and the paywall crashed. So I was like, man, that sucks, but we're on to something, man. This is unbelievable. So I went and tried to get it sanctioned, and no, and then no, and then no, and then 28 no's, 7 years later. I met Brian Pedersen of Wyoming. He said yes, and then we went to Mississippi, then we went to Florida. We got legal in New Hampshire. Now we have like 10 states, about 10 more on the board right now. It's just, it's amazing. It's truly is like, if you believe in yourself enough and just work your ass off, you can make it happen. And we did. And, you hear that a lot, but not a lot of people actually just, when you hear no, it's so easy to be like, okay, forget it and turn around. I was like, every no, there's a couple times there I was like, what, I probably heard enough no's now. I'm probably going to go away. And then I was like, you know what? I can't, man, because what had happened was like the Rolling Stone magazine was doing articles, and they would call me every once in a while, and then they would be like, what, any updates on this? And that would like spark my fire again. I'd be like, I got to get this thing going. So, we worked hard, man. I mean, we really, truly worked really hard to get where we're at today. And we couldn't be happier at the way the Knucklemania went, and the in event results and the post event results are just, phenomenal for us.
One of the things that I have observed in boxing and regular boxing is that, I don't know, it's just something about the sport today that isn't as entertaining as it used to be, or maybe I feel like it should be. So I feel like as a combat sports writer, when the UFC came along, they offered a lot more entertainment, a lot more value, a lot better fights, at least consistently, than boxing does. And when I saw, this was my first bare knuckle boxing event I watched, I was like, this reminds me of those early UFC cards, right? Were you interested in being like a boxing promoter? And then like, how did the bare knuckle idea come about, I guess?
In that time, right before I did it, I was promoting boxing. I fought professionally myself.
Yeah.
For a while, and then I got into promoting, and I was promoting tough man contests, and then I got into professional boxing, and then mixed martial arts, and then ultimately where we're at today. But when I was promoting boxing, I did an event in Arizona prior to the bare knuckle event. I was promoting a guy, Bobby Gunn, in boxing, and he fought for me. He had a draw. He didn't really train, and we just got to be friends. And he was telling me about his gypsy traveler heritage and how that they would do these fights over there in England and Ireland. They would bet money on them, solve family disputes. And I started looking into it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we started talking more, and I really dove into it. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this. So I went to Bobby one day. I remember going, I'm going to do this, man. I'm going to try one real fight, like organized. And he's like, oh, you'll never get it done, pal. It's never going to happen. And I was like, wow, that's just what I needed to hear. So I made it happen, obviously, back then. And it just kept us going all the way till now. But that's how I actually got the idea for the bare knuckle fighting. And then, just seeing what Kimbo Slice did then after that, and what all these other guys were doing, it was so intriguing. And right, like you go to a boxing match, you go to a baseball game, you go to a basketball game, and someone gets in a fist fight in the stands. Everybody's looking at the fist fight. No one's looking at the game. No one's looking at the boxing match. They're all looking at the fist fight because it's pure, it's real, and that's what we're giving the fans. So yeah, I mean, as far as the early days UFC, yeah, absolutely, it has that feel because we still have that realness, that pureness, and we're not changing that. I mean, that's what people are tuning in to see. So we're not going to change it. We're not going to mainstream it, if you will, on that respect. But, you know, we're going to keep the fights just how they are. Very evenly matched, very exciting, and very fast paced.
One of the things that I really love about it, it gives people the opportunity. Another, like, there are a lot of fighters out there, and it gives more fighters the opportunity to compete, and especially to compete on TV or compete on stream cards, to actually be in front of people, to do what they love in front of people.
Yeah.
I love that. I love Knucklemania. You call it the fastest growing sport. I can see why that is, but it's not something that's legal in all 50 states yet, right? So you're having to go, and just like in the early days of MMA and UFC, you have to go and like do that on a state by state basis.
Yeah. We're in 10 states now, and we have about anywhere between 10 and 15 right now that we could probably get sanctioned and regulated in any day now. It's just with COVID, I don't want to open up these states and spend the time and money and effort opening them up, and I can't get fans there, because that's the whole key about opening up new states, is so we can get those local fans there to see it in attendance. Because if you liked it on TV or you liked it streaming, you'll absolutely fall in love with it live. So we have to get them there live, and then they become fans for life. So that's really the model here. We probably have about half the states in the United States ready to go. And then the other half, we just really haven't worked on a lot yet, because we don't really, you know, we have to put our effort elsewhere right now. But I only see about 2 or 3 states being a roadblock for us at all. And they may not even be a roadblock. I don't know. We haven't really went there yet. I know one of the biggest states, New York, we're actually having really, really great conversations with the commission, and they like what we're doing. So I think that's going to be sooner than later.
That's good. It took those guys forever in MMA, so hopefully they've learned through that process. I saw a study that you actually have data that proves that bare knuckle boxing, at least this data in the study says, less concussions than boxing and MMA, less hand injuries, which the whole reason boxers wear gloves in the first place, right, originally was to protect their hands. So that shocks me.
So absolutely less concussiveness, without a doubt. I mean, if you just think about it, and like, this is how I had to pitch commissions before I actually had data and had fights. I would say, here, I would bring a boxing glove to the presentation, and I would say, hit the wall. You know, not real hard, but hit the wall. And they would hit the wall. Then I would take the glove off and say, now hit the wall. And they would just like touch it, and they would go, just right there. They would go, wow, that makes so much sense already. You're just not going to hit as hard with the bare knuckle on, in fear of breaking your hand. You're just not going to do it. And I think that reason, coupled with the fact that they're really learning how to pick their shots and you know, not really aiming at the top of the head. We've had total to date now 12 hand breaks. I think on that study was 8. We're at 12 hand breaks total. I don't know if it's three or 5 people that had concussive or subconcussive diagnosis, 2 or 3 facial fractures, and that's it. I mean, we've had 300 fights or 300 fighters fight. So, you know, that's very minimal compared to boxing or MMA. And I won't ever go out there and say we're safer, because anytime you get hit in the head, it's dangerous. But we're no more dangerous than those other combat sports.
Yeah, and that's how it was always. Probably you hit that wall when you first tried to get it legalized in states. It's like, oh, well, because we just assume 100 years ago, John L. Sullivan was the last gloveless heavyweight champion, right? We assume that they did all that for safety measures and had good reasons, but nobody ever goes back and thinks, like, is this actually safer?
Sure. Well, imagine being a commissioner. You're a commissioner, and I'm going in and pitching you, telling you, yeah, bare knuckle. If you get hit with bare knuckles, it's actually safer than boxing gloves. You know, like,
yeah.
And you're looking at me with 3 heads. You're like, what is this guy talking about? So now I have the data. Now I have the footage. I have everything that backs it up, and that's what's really making it a lot easier in our regulatory efforts right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the arguments for boxing, professional boxing with gloves on, statistically has a pretty high rate of people that unfortunately die in the ring. And so one of the arguments that's been made in the past is maybe the gloves are too big, right? The repetitive blows to the head, and you don't have that natural where you're concussed and you're knocked out. That's your body's natural defense mechanism. Is that something, a kind of thought that you agree with, or is it outside of your realm?
100%. That's exactly what I agree with. I think with the smaller, you know, with smaller padding or no padding, you're not going to be able to absorb the amount of shots. So you're not going to take the continual punishment. Obviously I think with bare knuckle, it's a little bit different because you're not throwing 100% as I think with MMA gloves you are. So that's probably going to be a little bit less concussiveness there, but absolutely, like, I mean, as you know, I've been in this for a long time, and I did a lot of sparring, Bernard Hopkins, all the best fighters in the world, and taking punches from those guys with headgear on and 16-ounce gloves, you would think it's, oh yeah, they call it pillows. It's anything but pillows. That's hard shots to take, and you're taking them and getting a little dazed, but you're not getting knocked out. So you're taking more and more and more of them, and that's what I think causes the CTE or whatever else you may say.
Anecdotally, I talked to Holly Holm recently, and she basically said the same thing about boxing versus MMA with the smaller gloves. MMA with the smaller gloves on, is that she felt she got more hurt in boxing with the bigger gloves and the headgear for the exact reasons that you just described. Paige VanZant versus Britain Hart. I have to tell you that I was excited about this event, right? Because I mean, Paige VanZant's a big name. I didn't know a lot about bare knuckle boxing, except that I know that I've been a boxing fan my entire life. So I love boxing. I was totally down for this, right? I know all about John L. Sullivan, going into bars and claiming he can lick any guy in the room. I was excited about it. This thing delivered too, right? You named it Knucklemania, which reminded me of WrestleMania as a kid, and it delivered. Were you disappointed in the result? Like when you sign a big name like Paige VanZant, were you like, I wish she would have won? Or how does that work for you as a promoter?
No, I think, look, Paige, she delivered what I wanted her to deliver, and I wanted her to deliver to me fans that normally wouldn't tune into this event. And that's what she delivered to me. She delivered, I mean, the messages afterwards were like, I've never watched this before, kind of what you're saying. And like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, it's unbelievable stuff. I love it. I love it. I'm a fan for life. That kind of stuff. She delivered that to me. As far as her performance in the ring, I thought that she got off to a little bit of a slow start because a lot of people have to adapt to this. I'm not disappointed with her performance at all, and I think that she's going to rebound back. We're actually going to have dinner tomorrow night. I'm going to be down in Florida, and we're going to talk. I have big plans for her. I mean, it's not like she went out there and excuse my language, but got her ass kicked for 5 rounds. She didn't. She got beat to the punch a little bit at the beginning, but the thing that impressed me the most is at the end of the fight, she really came on. She found her own. Yeah. She found her rhythm a little bit, and then she came on. Had it been a little bit reversed, where she came on really good in the first round and then kind of died out and didn't see that will at the end, then maybe I would have a different, a different attitude right now. But I'm all about Paige VanZant. We're, like I said in another interview, we're 100% definitely still in the Paige VanZant business, and we think she's got a great brand, and I think she's a great fighter, and I think she's going to show it even more this time on her next fight, which I don't know who that's going to be with yet or when, but when it happens and when we announce the opponent, I think that we're going to get she's going to perform very, very well. So we're excited about her return.
I thought she looked really good. I thought her feet were great. That's an important thing for a boxer. She just didn't have, maybe her timing was a little off because she wasn't used to that rule set. But I thought it also elevated Britain Hart, right? All of a sudden, I didn't know who Britain Hart was, except that she was fighting Paige VanZant all of a sudden. But now I think I speak for the entire world that loves Britain Hart, especially after her post-fight interview. Like that, to me, like that was unintentional, but true. Like she was just being herself. She was excited. And man, people love her now.
She's a great kind of story, right? She's had a rough life, victim of domestic abuse time and time again, raising 2 kids, waitress, training her ass off. And here she had an opportunity and took advantage of it. And then she had an opportunity for a post-fight interview, and she took advantage of that as well, man. But she did great. And I'm very happy for her because she was very humble in victory. She was excited, but very, very humble. And I look forward to her return as well. And I don't know who that's going to be or when that's going to be again. But I think we do have someone that we can build into our own star now. And that's kind of like the key for what we're doing here. We're bringing in these big names to get people like yourself and people that normally wouldn't watch this to watch it. And while you watch it, you'll fall in love with some of the fighters on the undercard, and then you'll want to follow them in the future.
Yeah, I think plan here. You're already gotten like you already get people like Shaquille O'Neal. I guess he wants to. Is he gonna get involved with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're in talks with him right now. We're really close to the finish line, dotting some I's and crossing some T's, but it looks like that's going to happen. He's been a fan of combat sports for a long time, and he just loves this. We didn't reach out to him, or we didn't try to get him. He was a fan first, and then we started talking some business. So, his brand, right? Shaq. Who doesn't know Shaq? Everyone in the world knows him. So it would be a great brand to align ourselves with.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And that, I mean, really, like I read the story about his friend just happened to invite him to one, and then he sees this. So you truly have, it seems like a product, that people really do genuinely think like, oh, this is awesome. And then B, it says something to me that you're still around after the pandemic, right? Because there's a lot of things, a lot of people aren't.
Well, it was crazy because, when the pandemic first hit, like everybody else, first of all, we're all like, what the hell's going on? And we're just like, what are we going to do? And then we're like, wow, how are we going to save this business? Right. And so, we just kind of grinded, and we said, look, there's a different way to do this. Let's launch our own app. So we launched the Bare Knuckle TV app, which is the home for our fights. We did do pay-per-view on this one because we were working out a new interface with the app. So we've got so many downloads on it. It's unbelievable. So we just kind of grinded, refocused, kind of what we wanted to do and build from the ground up, bring some names in, but also build these guys and girls that no one really heard of. So we also launched a new series during the pandemic, which is called Toe the Line Fight Series. And that's kind of like a feeder league for us. And we did 3 of those events in the pandemic as well. So we just kind of, it gave us time to really refocus and get that plan exactly where we wanted to go. And now we know exactly where we want to go. And we're headed there, I think, faster than we would have been had we not even hit the pandemic. Because I think we would have kept going, doing what we were doing, and didn't have time to slow down. We were putting on 1 or 2 shows a month, so we were going so fast. Then we had time to really sit back, soak everything in that we did up to that point, and then see where we wanted to go. And it's been fantastic.
The world's changed a lot since the pandemic. I think right before the pandemic, didn't you guys sign a deal with Shannon Briggs?
Yeah. We signed Shannon Briggs. We did a deal with DAZN.
What happened to those things?
Shannon Briggs still wants to fight, but it just, some of the guys that we put in front of him and some of the guys he wanted to fight, it just didn't make sense at that point. So we'll see what happens with him. I mean, he is climbing up on 50, and some of the naysayers in here say we only get retired fighters and things like that, and we wanted to kind of stay away from that. So I don't know if he's going to fight for us or not. We'll see what happens. If something makes sense, he will. He's always stays in phenomenal shape. So we'll see what happens.
I listened to an interview with him and Mike Tyson when he was on that podcast, and I mean, he's training, he's sparring all the time. Let's go, champ! I love Shannon Briggs. I'd like to see him do it.
He's awesome. I mean, I like him a lot. He promoted this fight for us. He's a good guy. So we'll see what happens.
And then what about DAZN? Did that fall through after the?
And just, what, the deal changed, and when the deal changed, it just wasn't what we wanted to do, and we wanted to, as we built this from scratch, and we were controlling our own destiny, we said, look, let's just keep controlling our own destiny, launch the app, and own our own subscribers, own our own content. And I think to this point, it's a really good play for us right now, because our reach is really widening right now.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, look how much money they made with the UFC, man. You might have jet money someday.
All I wanted was a jet.
Yeah. You talked about other big signings. It sounded like from that, and then what you just said about Shannon Briggs, is that you would like to sign more people like Paige VanZant as well. That are, I mean, Paige is 26. She's in her prime, right? You want to infuse. Do you have any other big signings on the way?
I mean, we do. It's when I leak stuff before, other organizations jumped up and grabbed them. So
okay, yeah.
Right, but yes, we have a big plan. We just finished a huge round of funding. Like something that blew me away personally, to be honest with you. Yeah. And we're gearing up for one hell of a 2021 and 2022. We feel by the end of 2 to 3 years from now that we are really going to be a major player in combat sports, although we're starting to be one now, but we're going to be an official major player where we can, kind of do the things that we need to do and want to do. And we're not far off. And, we're excited about where we've been, where we're going right now. And, we have a pretty good feeling where we're going to end up.
Well, I'm super grateful, like I said, to chat with you. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you again for all your support you've given us. It's definitely means a lot to us. Thank you.